Okay, welcome everyone to the kickoff video of my new 10mm project, the first of many, which is going to be some Napoleonics. Initially I'm building this for Soldiers of Napoleon, but I am also keeping in mind black powder and a few other Napoleonic rule sets as I construct this, so that I can try them out. You know, I want to be able to make the armies I'm building here as flexible as possible, and as simple as possible really, so that I can play lots of different rule sets, just to get a sense of which one I really want to kind of pursue. So with that in mind, first steps is some planning. So I've got one of my trusty little rulebook notepads, and I've started sketching out some of the armies I wanted to build. You'll notice immediately here I made an error. My first thoughts when I went through the rulebook was to do a 6th coalition force for the French, but I've since changed to the 7th, so I did a bit more of Waterloo. But I don't know if you can see here, the 6th coalition line infantry has no minimum requirements. It's got 0 to 2 battalions per brigade. However, the 7th coalition has a 2 to 6, so there is a minimum of 2 line infantry per line infantry brigade. So I initially had plans to do a line infantry brigade and then a reserve line infantry brigade, but that all went out the window straight away because of the minimum requirements. So ignore all this scribbles, ignore these boxes down here with crosses. So as I said, working with Soldiers of Napoleon, going to tackle the smallest possible game you can have, basically, which is what they call a small division game, which is 200 points per side. That doesn't get you very much, but that's okay. It's a good starting point. The way the forces are constructed in Soldiers of Napoleon is by divisions made up of a number of brigades. They have, I think, very small, medium, large, and very large games, and it's essentially down to the number of brigades you have. So if I can find the page, here we go. You'll see here I've got a small division game, it's the smallest, and it's number of brigades 2 with nothing in reserve, and it's between 200 and 500 points. And as you go up the size of games, you basically introduce one brigade every time. So a large division would have 2 or 3 brigades, and you could have 1 in reserve. Core size game is 4 brigades, 3 with 1 in reserve, and an army sized is 3 with 2 in reserve. And obviously the points jump up as you go. So from those 2 brigades, you have to choose, as I was just showing a moment ago, from essentially set brigades. So I don't know how much you'll see of this, but there's different types of brigades to choose from. Each one has a brigade command for free, and then has some limitations on what you can and can't take. You might notice, sorry, I can't fit everything on screen here, but you may notice that there's no crossing within a brigade of cavalry and infantry. So infantry brigades are all infantry battalions, cavalry brigades are all cavalry regiments. Artillery can be in both. Fairly straightforward, fairly nice kind of army list to pick from. Let's see if I can just bring this one a bit closer. Let's grab an example of the British just to show you how it works. So I'll just show you, this is from the British list. This is the British and King's German Legion Infantry Brigade as an example. Each brigade can comprise of a number of units, and then generally 0 to 1 artillery batteries, but sometimes it's more. And then those brigades are made, those units, sorry, the 1 to 4, are a mix of any of these, either battalions or regiments. So in this case, we can have 0 to 4 line infantry battalions, or 1 light infantry, 1 veteran line, or 1 rifle brigade. Sorry, battalion. I'm still getting used to the language here. There is a note just above: the maximum number of rifle battalions in any army is 2. So there are some limitations there. Every stand within those units is of the value shown on the points here. So every stand of British line infantry within a line infantry battalion is worth 11 points. The size of battalions is between 2 and 6 bases, so that's essentially between 22 and 66 points per battalion. And the MV value here is essentially the morale value that having that unit in your force brings you, and that contributes to your break value of your army. So if we jump back to where I was looking, I started sketching out what I want to do for both armies. I'm going to do a French army and a British. I said, apart from this error I made at the start, both armies are essentially the same. This is the format. Down here we have a divisional commander who's free. Underneath them we have 2 brigade commanders, again both free, and then their brigades are made up of 2 line infantry battalions of 4 stands each, and then a single artillery base. So the rules suggest, as I said, the size of a unit has to be between 2 and 6 bases. It suggests that 4 or 5 is a kind of good to strong unit. 2 being very weak, 3 being weak, 6 being very strong. Okay, so if we look at the points we have here, each brigade is command stand for free, 8 line infantry stands, each of which is 11 points, so 44, 88, and then a single 8-pounder is 12 points to bring that to 100. So this brigade is 100 points, the other brigade is identical for 100 points, giving me a total of 200 points. That's the minimum you need for an army in this game, and it gives me a break value or morale value of 8. I won't get into what morale value actually equates to until I get to kind of gameplay, but that seems fairly average. It will mean this is a fairly quick game, but that's what I want right now. I'm just learning the rules. So with that in mind, I've also done the British, which is, as you can see, identical. The only difference here is that they have 9-pounder guns instead of 8. Otherwise the points are the same and the bases are the same. So this will be as generic and balanced a force as I can get for 200 points. All infantry. I'll introduce cavalry afterwards. I think it'll be a good place to start. So with that in mind, I've made an order, and I want to do this with kind of all the projects just to give people a sense of how much these things cost if they want to start them themselves or compare them to projects they might be doing in different scales and so on. From Pendraken, excellent 10mm miniature range they have for Napoleonics, amongst other things. Sorted out the packs I needed, ordered everything in one go. You'll notice here I actually ordered one too many French line because I still had the idea at the time that I was going to have the reserve line infantry. However, the intention in the future to have more line infantry or reserve infantry means these won't go to waste. But all of these with their bases comes to just over 60 quid, postage of £3 for the UK. So if I, excuse me, if I hadn't over ordered that, it would have been 54 plus 3, so £57. That's about average for two armies. Again, they're very small. Compare that to a starter kit that's probably got similar in 28mm plastic. I don't think it's over the odds. I don't think it's too cheap, but I'm comfortable with that as a cost for this project. And you'll see below here I've made a couple of notes which I've actually gone back on. 4 models per base. I'm using 20mm square bases, and at this point I'll reach over because some of these things have arrived. So 20mm square bases is not huge, but having 4 infantry in a square on there will be fine for me. And obviously I'm aiming to play this on a 3x3 table. The whole point of going down to 10mm is to keep things fairly small, keep things manageable, but also allow me some flexibility to have those larger battles when I want them. I did make a note here saying 2 to 3 crew per gun, but I also said see what fits. We'll come back to that. As I put a note here, all units use the same square base. I've decided I'll get everything onto these 2cm squares. For ease of storage, possible use in other games, including Command and Colours Napoleonics. If I have 4 of these to a hex in that, it might be usable. I think Justin Borges did a few videos about his project doing that, and they were on 20mm squares, I think. But we'll see. But the plan is to stick with those for everything right now. Okay, so looking ahead then, French. I'm starting with the French army. A number of people suggested record all of your paint schemes as you go and your progress, so you'll know what you did when, how far you've got. You won't forget what colours you've used. And every time I've said I'll do this in the past, I've not done it. So determined to stick to it right now. As you see, I've already started a little bit of undercoating or priming and dry brushing, which I'll get to in a moment. But this is obviously the composition of what I need to paint up. I've got 3 bases of line for each battalion, and then a command base, 2 artillery to do, 2 brigade commanders and 1 divisional commander. I'll just pull some models out. So I made that order from Pendragon, turned up nice and quick. Got all my models. These are actually the British. I've got it here. Very impressed with how clean these are. There was minimal kind of tidy up. The cannons was probably the thing that had the most, but it's just trimming around the wheels a bit, and an occasional tiny bit of the kind of flash. I've not really had mould lines that have been too problematic, and no kind of ugly flash. Actually, the other thing you need to do is trim, and a lot is trim the I don't know if you can see it, but the tiny little excess flash off the bottom from the feeder in the moulds. But British there, lots of bases. I'll show you some examples of the French. I will show the British off when I get to them. So I've cleaned these up. These are one of the styles of French line. I will show you where I've taken these, just to let you see a bit more detail. So obviously for the camera's sake, I've primed some up black by hand and just done a simple grey dry brush on these so you can see some more of the detail. So these are the line infantry. There's two styles, or two poses I should say, one holding their rifles with their arm across their front. Some nice detail on the back of the backpacks and the ammo cases and canteens and things. And other style is standing or marching with an arm by the side. So the cross belts on these you'll be able to have to put a bit more attention to. And again, similar detail on the back. Oops. I'm trying a technique of using PVA for these, and occasionally some do fall off, so I will fix that. We have command, there's standard bearers, I'm not sure exactly what rank these are. Someone can enlighten me. But two, there's kind of I assume is a similar to a sergeant and a lieutenant or captain. And then looking forward to painting these drummers. So you can see there's a lot of detail in there. I don't know how much effort I'm going to put into kind of really highlighting these up. I kind of want this to be a quick project in terms of painting. I'm going to keep everything very generic. It might upset the button counters, I'm afraid. Everything's going to be kind of blue and white with red as the collars and cuffs colours. No real distinction between units and things, because I don't want until I know I'm going to play this a lot, I don't want to even get into the effort of distinguishing them. These are my brigade and the divisional commanders. I'm just going to do three essentially the same, maybe one colour to distinguish the divisional commander initially, but with the armies being so small, I'll know that they're who's who, and when I come to grow the game to a slightly larger size, you do introduce higher level commanders, and that's when I'd rather introduce some of the characters maybe from the period to have them stand out. So these are my artillery. If you remember the army list, I actually only need two, but given there's only three in the pack, I figured I'll do them all now, and they're quick to put together. These came in 4 pieces, the 2 wheels, the frame, and then the barrel itself. You notice I've made the decision to kind of mount these off center on their bases. That's so I can put a crew member with each on the base, and still have room to kind of base it how I want with the basic material. And this guy's just the guy, the crew with the match or whatever it's called to light the cannon. I'm very well aware that you need more than one crew to fire a cannon, and I think these had 4 or 5 that came with them. I don't want to spend time painting 4 or 5 crew that won't fit on these small bases that I won't use. So I'll save them. If there's any rule sets which would require me to have more crew, so I can count casualties and things, I might paint them up separately and just add them beside the cannons when I need to. But for now, I'm going to keep it fairly simple, straightforward, get them done. So that's everything. This is the all the different styles of models we have for this army. You can see this is the rest of the infantry I need to paint as well. So there's 5 stands of each, sorry, 5 sticks of each pose of line infantry, the 4 sticks of command, 1 of commanders, and then the 3 cannons and 3 crewmen. So not a huge project for this army, and obviously the British is essentially identical. I will go through those when I get to them. So this is my first 10mm project of this new kind of endeavour I'm setting out on for the channel. I do have some fantasy stuff underway, and I do have World War II coming along too, but I wanted to get this kind of on the bench, get a few colours down on these guys quite quickly, try and get into the habit of painting maybe at least 1 colour a day, just to get that 15-20 minutes of painting a day if I can, even if it's on my lunch break or just before bed or something. But I want to keep these projects moving. So I have some plans for some terrain as well. Just missed out on an eBay auction, which would have set me up for everything I need, absolutely everything I need. Unfortunately, it went sky high at the last minute. Yeah, so this is this project. I will do brief updates as I kind of jump through this. I think aiming to get the line infantry done first, power through that, get those bases together, and we'll see where we go from there. So yeah, step 1 on the Napoleonic project, we're underway. Hope everyone's interested to see where this goes, and I shall share an update very soon. Right, thanks for watching. Cheers.